There's an old saying that you should always close your curtains at night because you can allow what's outside to be invited in. Now, this is a story from Eastern Tennessee. There was this man named Levi, and Levi said he lived in this house that was right next to the woods. And he said this particular night, he went to bed as usual, and he started having this dream. And he said in this dream, there was this man staring at him from his bedroom window. Said he had pale white skin, no nose, no mouth, and these solid black eyes. And on top of his head, he had a couple scraggly pieces of hair. And he said he was just looking at him in this dream. And then all of a sudden, he said he heard a voice say, "Come outside." And he wakes up, and he said right away he looked out his window, and sure enough, that man was standing outside of his window. And then he just took off into the woods. So he was kind of a little freaked out by that, but was like, maybe I was just dreaming that still, and it was all in my head. Until he looks at the window and he sees what looks like a face print. A couple weeks later, David said, he goes to sleep, and this time he has a dream. He's in his house and he's walking into his kitchen. And he said when he looked out his back kitchen door, he could see this same man, creature, whatever you want to call it, outside on his back porch. And he said this thing was sort of bent over and it was pacing back and forth, just moving its shoulders. He said it then stopped at the door window, and it turned and it looked at him and it said, "Come outside." And he said he woke up and he was like, man, that dream just felt like really real. So he walks out to his back porch and he looks, there's no one out there. But when he looks down at the snow on the porch, he can see what look like footprints. So David didn't know, Levi didn't know what to make of this. And he, at the time, just thought, it was just bad nightmares he was having. So a couple weeks later after this, he goes to bed again one night. And he says he has this dream. And in this dream, once again, he's in his bedroom, laying in his bed. And he says he hears the front door open. And he said all of a sudden he heard footsteps kind of, moving through the living room, down the hallway. And then his door opens. And he said in walks this white creature, bent over with its shoulders kind of moving as it walked. And he said he came right over to his bed and it sat on his stomach. And he said the whole time he just couldn't move. He said this thing just kind of was like smiling at him as it's sitting on top of him. And he said it turned and it looked at him and it said, "I said, come outside." And then he said he lifted up his arm and it scratched him right on his side. He wakes up and it was like, that seemed all too real. He lifts up his shirt, and in the place where he got scratched in the dream, he had this huge scratch. And so the next day, he goes to his neighbor's house, and he's like, "Hey, this is gonna sound weird, but like, have you ever seen sort of like a weird guy that's been, looking in windows or anything?" And he said his neighbor just turned and had this like shocking look on his face, and he was like, You mean the pale white guy with, a couple strands of hair and the solid black eyes? And he's like, yeah, how did you know? And he goes, when I first moved here, I used to leave my curtains open, and I would see him peeking in my window, and he would tell me to come outside. And he said, so after that, I started keeping my curtains closed at night. And so Levi said after he had heard that, he never slept at night without the curtains closed in his bedroom.
I had my first contact with UFOs in 2013. Anytime I talk about what I saw and felt that night, I feel the most extreme energy and power inside of my body, and it takes over my entire body like chills. With everything we know today, I'm no longer calling what I saw UFOs, I'm calling them orbs. I lived in a really small town. This was in California, San Francisco Bay Area, very deep East Bay, like near the Delta. This area is notorious for sightings of ghosts and also UFOs. It's also surrounded by military bases. On this night, we are driving down our street towards the stop sign. When we pull up to the stop sign, there's already a brown truck there, and their taillights are glowing super bright red, but they're not going anywhere. I also think it looks like two guys are in the truck. The guy on the right side has his arm hanging out of the window. They're just chilling there. I look over at my ex because I'm like, why hasn't he honked? He was an aggressive driver. He would have honked. He would have went around, but he was frozen. And he's staring straight at the brown truck. There were tears running down his face, but he wasn't moving. I realized that I am filled with energy. Like I have this I feel it now. Anytime I talk about it, I feel it now. I'm trying to stay composed, and it's really difficult. But it's a really good feeling. I feel happy. I feel fresh. I feel alive. I can't explain it. I turn around and I look at my kids in the back seat. They're frozen as well. Both of them have tears pouring out of their eyes. That's when I look over to my right side. There's 2 palm trees, and I see these huge bright lights. I can post a picture of what it looks like, but this is not exactly what it looked like. There's no representation that I could find anywhere in our world that would explain what these lights look like. It's almost like the ability to see the color, but also feel the color at the same time, which I know isn't humanly possible. I can't even say how long we sat there for. It felt like it was a very long time. And of course, I'm the only one moving around, so I'm kind of, I don't know, I just have all this energy in my body. I grab my cell phone. I start taking pictures, I start recording, but nothing was showing up on camera. Like you could not see the lights, which was crazy because there's a street light right there, which was picking up. So why wasn't it able to detect this huge, bright light? It almost looked like somebody grabbed the sun and pulled it in so close that it was right above these palm trees. The light separated. It was almost like another light came out of it. Another orb came out of it. It didn't change in size or shape, but the other one just floated silently through the air and was right next to it. And then another one appeared, and another one appeared. And I don't know how many they were, maybe 5. They did a few different shapes. They did like an L shape. They did a V shape. And they were all stacked up on top of each other. They were in a straight line, perfectly straight line that went vertically up into the sky. I wasn't able to take the pictures, so I wanted to call my mom. I wanted her to see this, and I was only about 2 blocks from my house. So I called my mom because she was at the house babysitting my daughter. And I say, go look outside. Look up right here by the stop sign on Canal. Do you see these lights? It's a straight shot, and she says she doesn't see anything. There's no way possible that you can't see these. There's no way. They're huge. There's so many of them.
I caught a ghost on camera. So I was standing outside this Mazda, and I was like, oh, I should video record it, before I inventory it so I don't forget, so I can do my research later and then tell you guys a story. So I did just that. When I video recorded it, come in, we're going to take a look. This crash involved a dog. There's a dog right there. Do you guys see that? Go back, look again. It took me about 4 tries to actually see that it was a ghost of a dog. So backstory here is a couple of people were driving down the road with their dog not in a seatbelt. Can you believe that? Also drunk driving with the dog in the car, and overcorrects their car, rolls it, and crushes the entire thing, killing the driver, passenger, and the little puppy. It's a very sad story. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a good day and don't be my next ghost story, literally. Or do. If anybody is curious at where it's at, right here, it's going to be in the passenger floorboard at 22 seconds. You need to pause and hold. I'd say about 50% of people are seeing it and 50% of people are not. Maybe that's our next conversation. Why can't y'all see it? Guys, come on. I'm showing you proof of a dog and you're calling me a loser. Which is fine. It's not the worst I've been ever called, especially with a nose like this. So pause it at 20 seconds and then scroll forward. It's in the passenger floorboard of that vehicle. Super sad. Video's in the description. I'm gonna tag it in case y'all knew. And if you're new, I don't always sound like this. I have a really stuffed up nose. But y'all are brightening my day, like, with every comment. I mean, not only do I love comments and engagement, because I love engaging with you guys back, but the comments are cracking me up. Like, they're making me laugh. Keep going. But look for the dog. Look for the dog. It's there. Curious about where the ghost dog is in the car? Let me show you. One thing people don't understand is ghosts are everywhere. I never thought that before I started working in a junkyard. I never was like a huge person. I wasn't really wasn't even in depth with it. Never really gave it a second thought. But when I started working there, you see shit that you just would never imagine. You smell things that just don't belong. And you see shit that kind of does belong. For instance, that woman one time I saw when I was hanging out on a forklift, had a wrecked car. Ooh, that scared the shit out of me. Let's look at this dog. So I slowed this down, like way down. I'm literally at 22 seconds. We're going to be looking in between the gear shift and the center vent. Ghosts aren't plain as day, guys. They don't show themselves to you very often. So the dog goes behind the center vent all the way over to the right-hand side of the vehicle. I placed 2 arrows. I hope you guys can find it. Have a good day.
Let me tell you why you should never go into places that have heavily demonic activity, being disrespectful, and thinking you can get away with it. I went to Zach Bagans' Haunted House Museum in 2017 with my ex-wife in Las Vegas. This is an 18 and up only, guys, so if you're a minor, don't even try. They will not allow you in. You have to sign a waiver, and on that waiver back then, it stated that whatever happened to you once you left the property, you cannot sue the place for it. You just can't. So once the waiver is signed, you can go in as a group. It's 90 minutes long, guys. We had one guy in the group who was that skeptic, who is that douchebag. I'm talking the douchebag with his hat backwards, sitting there trying to show off for the 2 girls he was with. As we were progressing through this tour, this guy kept cracking jokes, kept saying stupid shit like, I don't know how people believe this, nothing's happened to us so far, this is what a waste of money, that type of guy. And then cracking jokes at all the other rooms that we were in. Anyways, I had this horrible feeling come over me, and I knew something was going to happen to this guy. Because mind you, I already had things I saw things. But that's a different video. If you want to hear that, comment below. Anyways, I tell my ex-wife. My ex-wife said, we got this far. Nothing's really happened yet. Until we got to the last part of the tour. The last part of the tour, the rooms to go in were optional. Because the items you're about to encounter were demonic, evil. People have had things happen to them when they've encountered these objects after they've left. Some tour guides refuse to go into certain rooms altogether, okay? It is not a joke. These people deal with these things all day for the tour. Anyways, the two girls went into the Dybbuk box room. That was the first room. The real Dybbuk box. I'm talking about the one from the movie. He looked in, and he looked for about 20 or 30 seconds because I was coming up, and I watched him change. I don't know what happened to him. He had his hat on backwards the entire time, but he turned it forward and kept his head down like this. I saw fear enter this man's body. He went from being this douchebag, show-off, cracking jokes, to being a frightened little boy. He said not a peep. He didn't even look up for the rest of this tour. When I walked past him, he was looking down at the ground when we went into the next room to look at this demonic doll. I saw darkness around this man. It was like this shroud of darkness. And when I say he was silent, it wasn't just verbally. It was his entire energy that was just quiet. Like something happened. I don't know. But guys, after the end of the tour, him and those two girls were the first to leave. They were gone. Do not think for a second that you can go into these demonic places, laugh at these entities, thinking nothing's going to happen to you. People have had really bad things happen to them after this tour. And this guy thought he was spirit bulletproof. He wasn't. If you're going to these places, protect yourself. If you do not know how to protect yourself, the best way to protect yourself is just to not go at all. Because these entities that we came across, their whole purpose in this world is to bring suffering, agony, bring you pain, and to ruin you. Now, I don't know what happened to that man, but he did not leave as a skeptic. I could tell you guys that much. So if you're going, please be careful. But the best safety is just to not go.